30 years ago, I was pastoring a church in a western suburb of Chicago, and I got a phone call from a couple who had recently moved into the area. They wanted to interview me, AKA to check me out, to see if they were going to visit our church someday. All right, that's what I said. We met at a local Starbucks, and they looked to be in their early 30s. He was well-dressed. She was in designer clothing and looking perky, and they both had crisp button-down shirts. And finally, after a few sips of coffee and some light-hearted banter, I asked them, what kind of questions do you have for me? What do you want to know? And in my mind, I was thinking of questions that they might ask, like, does your church have groups for various ages, right? Or do you have a strong music program? Or are there education classes? Do you ever take mission trips, either locally or across the country, or maybe internationally? And do you have a children's ministry, for example? Or I expected other questions like, is it okay if we tithe? And, no, I didn't ask that question. I didn't ask any of those questions, and the only question on their minds was this. This is what they asked me right out of the gate. And it was the only question for the rest of the discussion. Can you preach a good sermon on hell? Can you preach a good sermon on hell? I thought to myself, I didn't say it, but I thought to myself, I don't know if I can preach a good sermon. I can probably preach a mediocre sermon on hell, or even a bad sermon on hell. But here's what I did. I took a sip of the Starbucks coffee where we were at, and took another sip. I set the cup down, and I looked at both of them, and I said, I wasn't expecting a question about hell. Do you know someone that you hope ends up there? Suffice it to say, they never showed up in my congregation. I wanted to talk to them about extravagant welcome, but they were pretty hell-bent on sending people to hell. Extravagance is a word derived from two Latin words. Extra, meaning excessive or over the top or exceeding limits. And then there's the Latin word, the verb form vagari, V-A-G-A-R-I, which means to wander, to roam, to go beyond. So in a literal sense, extravagant really means excessive beyondness. Excessive beyondness. Okay, with my Starbucks story behind us, what do we mean when we say we are a people or a church community that practices extravagant welcome? That's the question I'd like to explore in a few minutes. And I think it has three parts, three components. I see you, I hear you, and I accept you. I see you, I hear you, and I accept you. Richard Rohr is a Catholic theologian. He heads up the Center for Action and Contemplation in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I haven't been there yet, but it's on my bucket list. And he makes this observation about seeing people. He says, we don't see people as they are, we see people as we are. Let me say that again. We don't see people as they are. We see people as we are. That is, we see people according to our own biases, says Rohr, our own judgments from the vantage point of our own internal conflicts, people who seem to have an active awareness of God, he continues, like mystics and hermits and nuns and contemplative souls always meet a God who is a lover and not a dictator. We meet a God who is a lover and not a dictator. Extravagant welcome is the default awareness of seeing everybody who walks through these doors, our doors, and sits in these pews as people who are loved by God who cannot possibly stop loving them. They are met by a God who cannot possibly stop loving them. God is a habitual, constant lover, and the next stranger, the next guest, the next inquirer to walk through our doors is the object of that divine love. We have nothing to prove and everything to acknowledge, and it all starts with an extravagant welcome. I see you as God sees you. All right, I see you. Second part of this equation, I hear you. I hear you. I give you my attention, my undivided, non-judgmental attention. We all know it's a basic human need to want to be acknowledged, right? We want to be heard. We want to be understood. She was an American humorist. I think she was an American hero. She died in 1996. I'm talking about Irma Bombeck. I came across an article this past week entitled, "Listening is a Lost Art Until Someone Needs You." Listening is a lost art until someone needs you. Here's the story she tells. She wrote it in an essay. She tells a story of when she was in the back of a cab on her way to O'Hare Airport in the Chicago area. And the cab driver was particularly chatty, nonstop, and Bombeck just wanted to sit in the back seat quietly, resting in a comfortable position, not having to talk to anybody, but he just kept telling her his tale of woes, and she finally got to the airport in a relief and went to her gate and sat down in a chair and was welcoming the silence of 30 to 40 minutes before boarding, and an elderly woman sat down next to her and recalled to Bombeck her life story. And Bombeck, seeking some peace, admitted that she never looked up, Irma, never looked up from the book she was reading as this elderly woman was pouring out her heart. And the woman didn't even pick up on any of those cues and kept talking about herself and her family. And then she said to Bombeck this: "My husband of 53 years died. His body is in a casket, and it's going on this plane because I'm bringing him back to his birthplace." And this is what the humorist, the national treasure, Irma Bombeck said, or at least wrote about it. "I don't think I ever detested myself more than I did at that moment. Another human being was screaming to be heard, and in desperation had turned to a cold stranger who was more interested in a novel than in the real-life drama sitting next to her. All she needed was a listener. She didn't need advice. She wasn't looking for wisdom. She didn't need money or assistance, just a minute or two for someone to listen, to be heard." When we say we are a church of radical welcome, we're saying in part, not only do we see you coming through those doors, but we hear you and give you our attention. our undivided, non-judgmental attention. What a gift to give. A third part of extravagant welcome is probably the toughest. It's I accept you. First, I see you. Then I hear you. And finally, I accept you. Allowing people to be who they need to be can stretch us in many unfamiliar, uncomfortable ways. Tolerance is not acceptance. Looking the other way is not acceptance. Putting up with someone is not acceptance. We accept people whenever we create space for them to thrive. We accept people whenever we create space for them to thrive. Colette read for us a passage from Henry Nouwen, the Catholic priest, prolific writer who struggled, by the way, his whole life with being gay, and it was a difficult admission, which he didn't advertise it or publicize it much, but he was. And he states beautifully in the contemporary reading, hospitality and extravagant welcome do not seek to change people, but to offer space. And the paradox of extravagant welcome and hospitality is that they want to create a friendly emptiness where strangers can enter and discover themselves as created free. Free to sing their own songs, speak their own languages, dance their own dances. Free also to leave and to follow their own vocations, to find their own way of being. I don't know many churches willing to say that and to act upon it, but I know this, it happens here. Sometimes in abundance, sometimes haltingly, but it happens here. To see others, to hear others, and to accept all those who have the courage to walk through those two doors. And may we continue to do so. May we continue to do so. It is in our DNA to do so.